Alright, happy March 8th, everybody. If you didn't hear, there is an X-flare inbound. The oceans are angry, my friend. I'm sure they're unrelated. But we are out in Montauk. I'm heading out pretty much as far east as the island of Long Island goes, the state of New York goes, possibly. Yeah, that's about it. That's the state of New York. This is life at 35. Actually, it's life at 30 right now. This is Mike Island. I hope everybody said their intentions today. I hope everybody, or prayers, call them what you will. I hope everybody did some deep breathing on the way into work today. I'm thankful for everything that I have. I have a beautiful wife, a lovely home, a manageable mortgage on the home. As long as my contract gets renewed with the Verizon that I work for, I have no complaints. I only hope to be able to tell people my story, being dead almost 10 years ago, being shocked back to life, spending 3 months in a coma, missing out on the entire DC Sniper shooting episode, start to finish. Finding out yesterday from the cool guy Vinny, who is working on my washing machine, that was also almost dead like me, that I served in the Air Force very close to where that DC Sniper guy, or Muhammad or whatever, trained as a civilian employee of the military on how to be a sharpshooter. We reap what we sow, people, and we sow every day. So good, positive things that are helpful to people, and all will be well. All right, we are talking about asteroids, I believe, but I hope you got some extra water and some supplies, because it's very possible things might not be moving around as easily as they normally do with this X5. And and it came from a sunspot that is very active lately. It just shot off an X1 the day before, which was not quite a direct hit yet as far as pointing to us, as we were being warned about that, and that it was Earth facing. It then shot out this X5.4, which is a biggie. All right, here we go.
With Daniel Durna. Daniel, we sure are getting our money's worth out of the Hubble Space Telescope, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic instrument. Life is limited now, though, unfortunately. No more shuttle missions to go up and resurface it and boost its orbit, so it's the clock is ticking, unfortunately, but absolutely fantastic stuff still coming.
When it goes sent up there in, what, 1990, I think?
Yes, I was there at the launch. I think
were you?
Yeah, I was there, yeah. In fact, that was right when I was still in graduate school at the University of Florida, and I used to do a lot of reporting for the local museum there on the shuttle program, and so they would send me down to every launch as a press-accredited person, and I got to see, I think the final count was something like 27 space shuttle launches up close.
Will it eventually crash to the planet?
Yeah, it'll do like many other satellites have, re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, burn up, break up. It's a big enough satellite that some pieces of it will probably survive intact down. Most likely, the Pacific Ocean's the biggest target on Earth. It'll end up splashing down bits and pieces, most likely someplace there.
When might that happen? Do you know?
You're putting me on the spot because I haven't actually looked at what the drag rate is on that. I don't know exactly what its final lifetime is, but it's probably measured on something like within the next decade. Or
I mean, it's in a low Earth orbit, isn't it?
In comparison, I mean, when Hubble was launched and then resurfaced over multiple missions, it was some of the very highest orbit shuttle flights that were ever made, and it was being put up as high as possible. Up to altitudes as much as like 500 and 600 kilometers up. So, in an effort specifically to try to prolong its life as long as possible.
Sure.
But even that, though, it's a big object, a lot of drag, and eventually it's coming down, unfortunately.
All right, back to some final calls. Judy in Burbank, California. Hi, Judy. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for being on. It's terrific. I was just wondering if a powerful asteroid were to go through a black hole, number one, would it ever be seen again? And number two, would it have any devastating effect or any kind of effect in the black hole at all? Or do they know what would happen to it?
Daniel, once it goes in, it doesn't come back, does it?
As far as we know, no. There's a lot of smart folks who try to work on the physics of what happens once you pass down into that little rip in space-time, as best we understand it. What happens on the other side of that, I think, is probably only people like Kip Thorne and people like that best understand. But going in, I can tell you, it's a terrible environment to go through. You're going to be that asteroid's going to be pulled and stripped into a little strand of spaghetti as it's ripped to dust and fall through the event horizon of that black hole. It's going to give up a lot of energy in the process. Just like when you drop a marble on the floor, it falls and gives up that gravitational energy, converts it into energy of motion. When it hits the floor, it goes snap. It makes a sound because it's hitting something solid there on the ground. When you're falling deep into the event horizon of a black hole, you've got nothing solid to hit, but you're giving up that final bit of energy as it crosses that boundary, and usually it's in the form of X-rays and gamma rays as it passes through.
There are other universes on the other side of the wormholes. What do you think?
It's not a universe if there's more than one.
Into the regime where I think probably only 5 or 6 people on this planet understand the mathematics of that well enough to really kind of get a sense of what goes on. But that's the basic idea of a wormhole, that some of the mathematics that describes that really extreme regime of physics best kind of approximated as sort of a passage through to some other place in space-time. Some place else physically in the universe and some other point in time, as best we can understand it. That's the stuff of science fiction, though, for sure, no doubt.
Let's go to Racine, Wisconsin. It's Tim.
Really?
Thanks. Great show, George and Daniel.
Thank you.
I got a couple of things, actually. I've seen that green thing, actually, too, like the ball, a couple of times.
Yeah, very common. Yep.
Yeah, but my question is, what about like an extraterrestrial helping, move something? Or if you could set something up on the moon, like a laser or something to maybe capture it. Maybe
to kind of help with this trip. There are a couple of things we can do, and when I mentioned the fact that there's really not a whole lot we can do, that was really in reference to the very biggest of the impacts, the sort of the dinosaur or the species killing sort of thing. When you're talking about these more small guys that we're discussing, like 2011 AG5, this football stadium size guy, then there's a lot of things we can do, and that's a different story altogether, and that's why that's a particularly interesting story these days, because it gets us right into this decision-making process of when do you decide to do something and what is it that you decide to do, and the reason it's interesting is because we actually have things that we can think to do, like a gravity tractor or this is where you park a spacecraft next to the asteroid and use its the self-gravity between them to tug the asteroid along with the spacecraft. There are kinetic impactors, like we actually tested with the Deep Impact mission to Comet Tempel 1 back in 2005 when we ran a big copper projectile spacecraft into the comet to study the cratering physics, but the same basic idea with a bigger spacecraft, a bigger impactor, and a smaller asteroid. You can give it enough of a wallop to actually affect the orbit of the object, and maybe affect an actual deflection maneuver to prevent the object from hitting us. And then, as a last resort for maybe a little bit larger object, there's always that final nuclear option, which seems to be the Hollywood option of choice, but it really is kind of our last option of choice. But for certain classes of objects, it would actually work to literally. In some cases, literally nuke the thing to bits, or more precisely, what we would end up doing is using a standoff deflection maneuver where you detonate a nuclear device off the surface of the asteroid, but use the absorbed radiation pulse from the detonation to vaporize part of the surface of the asteroid and create sort of an artificial jet, if you will, that would nudge the asteroid off course. So there are options at our disposal. We just have to be smart enough and decisive enough to watch the situation and take action when we think it's finally appropriate.
We go to Camino, California. Art's turn, west of the Rockies. Hello, Art, go ahead.
Gentlemen,
Yes.